Okay, let's try to do this before my roommate comes back. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. That is a quote from Martin Niemöller. I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. A German pastor who reflected on his complicity in the Holocaust post-World War II. As someone part of the in-group, he thought that the Nazi censorship, lack of due process, and heinous actions, the genocide, all of that wouldn't affect him, but his complicity only led to his own demise. Although he was lucky enough to live to say those words. But I noticed that many of us in America currently share an outlook to Martin before the end of the Holocaust, his mindset before or during the Holocaust. We believe we will be safe from the consequences of fascism, but history has shown that is completely false. I reflect on this quote as we enter a time in American history where a similar dynamic is forming. We have a camp of people who are being unjustifiably prosecuted and those who are complicit. Now, you could argue that this dynamic has always existed in relation to America. It might have, by some accounts, inspired Germany's actions during World War II because we have such a heinous history. But for like the past 60 or so years, it was purely exported. I've covered on this channel numerous times that like the CIA has done coups on democratically elected, leaders, took part in human trafficking that put innocent people in Gitmo or Guantanamo Bay, and manufactured consent on numerous wars that were built on complete lies. But all of that was overseas, so no one in America cared. However, as the American empire's grasp on the global stage declines, that prosecution is coming back home. Since Trump has taken hold of the White House, his administration has successfully ripped away one of America's best protections, free speech. It's part of Project 2025 and Project Esther's plan to crack down on dissent, especially anti-Israel speech, at least right now. In coordination with their crackdowns on immigration, they have been specifically targeting legal immigrants on visas or green cards. These are legal residents who are well within their rights to protest and use the First Amendment, which protects every person on US soil regardless of their status, meaning that they don't even have to have a visa or a green card, and they would still be required to be protected by the First Amendment. I will make sure to hammer that during this video because Americans do not understand their own rights, it seems. As predicted in my video from earlier this year, is Trump a fascist? This administration has targeted innocent people, all of a similar shade, brown, in an effort to carry out their fascist agenda. Now, how have we regressed and allowed for the same conditions that bred fascism 80 years ago to fester once again? And what can we do to stop it before it's too late? I'm gonna keep this brief, but it would be nice if you would subscribe if you like the content that you're seeing. If you're seeing it for the first time, you like the style, maybe drop a like, a subscribe, that'd be nice. I'm so close to 7K, so close, like it's within my reach, just barely out of my grasp, and I would like to touch it. I also have TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, Discord, if you would like to see all of the other content that I do, if you want to become more a part of the community. All of that is linked down in the description. But let's get to this American Gestapo. Marco Rubio has claimed that as the Secretary of State, he has revoked hundreds of visas for pro-Palestinian views, something that the admin claims is terrorist sympathy. The first widely broadcast case was Mahmoud Khalil, who was kidnapped by plainclothes ICE agents back in March. Mahmoud is a green card holder, which is a status directly below citizenship, meaning that he's working to get his citizenship, also meaning that he is a legal permanent resident of the United States. He's a former Columbia graduate student who was being targeted by the government for being one of the main negotiators in the pro-Palestinian protest encampments that happened most prominently last year. He was arrested in front of his wife, who is a United States citizen and also 9 months pregnant. The ICE agents refused to talk to her as she frantically chased after them on the phone with an immigration lawyer. The only thing that they would disclose was the location they were taking him to, but when she went to visit, he had been moved to Louisiana without any notice. Despite the Trump admin's efforts to put him in front of an unfair Louisiana court, according to MSNBC, a judge recently ruled that he would have to be tried in New Jersey. Although the Louisiana judge did make a ruling after asking for evidence, which I was like, okay, maybe she's gonna eat, maybe she's gonna be like, no, you can't deport him. But after she asked for evidence, the US didn't provide literally any. They were just like, he didn't actually break any laws, but he makes Jewish people feel unsafe, I think. Maybe, I don't know. And then she was like, oh, well, that's good enough. Okay. But Mahmoud Khalil has never been convicted of a crime. He has no priors. And the ICE agents that arrested him didn't even have a warrant, making this arrest completely illegal. They just kidnapped him. He was purely arrested for his political beliefs, which, like I said, are protected under the First Amendment. This is just a concerted effort by the Trump admin to degrade constitutional protection in order to carry out its fascist agenda. Khalil echoed a similar sentiment in a letter he wrote from jail, real MLK style, claiming they are targeting me as a part of a broader strategy to suppress dissent. According to MSNBC, the Trump admin is relying on an obscure provision of the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act, which says that the government may deport people if there are reasonable grounds to believe their presence in the country would have potentially severe adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. One of the major times this was tested was about 30 years ago when Trump's older sister, Marianne Trump, quite a coincidence, ruled it was unconstitutional to deport Mario Ruiz, who was facing criminal charges in his native country of Mexico. So if Mario couldn't be deported while facing criminal charges, then there's absolutely no precedent to deport a legal resident who has no criminal history and who, like I said, the government said didn't do anything unlawful. As mentioned, Marco Rubio has alleged that they are revoking Hamas sympathizers and anti-Semites who lied on their application, but that is just a completely false assertion that, when examined, is purely projection or hypocritical. Trump himself has had dinner with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West, who are, I think we all at this point know, are literal out and about Nazis. Elon Musk did a literal Roman salute at the inauguration, also has unbanned Nazis like Andrew Anglin on Twitter and cozied up to them over, the past few years that he's owned Twitter. Trump also made conspiracy theorist RFK the leader of the Health and Human Services, who has said COVID was ethnically targeted to spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. What are we doing here? It is very clear that the Trump admin doesn't actually care about actual anti-Semitism that they perpetuate, and also the attribution of pro-Palestinian beliefs to such is completely false. Now, if you are still confused on why that is false, I will explain it to you. People have pro-Palestinian beliefs or are against the state of Israel, not because the majority of Israeli citizens are Jewish, but because the state of Israel is, for at least for the past 18 months, if we just want to go off of that, before we get to like the 75 other years, for the past 18 months they've been bombing and killed like 40,000, almost 50,000 people at this point in Gaza alone. They also allow for settlers to take over people's land in the West Bank and make settlements, which is illegal by international law, is completely illegal to do, and the government backs that and protects those Israeli settlers who do that. Also in the West Bank, they get terrorized, get trash thrown at them, harassed, sometimes killed. And then also, if we want to go back to like the Nakba, just the start of the ethnic cleansing. Basically what I'm trying to say is that people are against the state of Israel because it has been ethnically cleansing Palestinians for 75 years. There's so much stuff I could rattle off that we do not have time for. But I've made multiple videos over the past 18 months talking about this. So, go check those out if you want to learn more. But this is simply a path to erode away freedom of speech in an avenue that they know Democrats will not speak out against because they are also rabidly pro-Israel and funded by pro-Israel lobbies like AIPAC. But under this justification, they have not only black-bagged Mahmoud Khalil, but many others. Another high-profile case is Rumeysa Ozturk, who was also unconstitutionally arrested by ICE near her school, Tufts University. She's a Turkish PhD student who wrote an op-ed last year demanding her school divest from the state of Israel. Now, imagine, especially as a woman, how terrifying it must have been to have a group of men surround you with masks and guns demanding you come with them. Like, what else should I call that other than a kidnapping? According to CNN, the government has not provided sufficient evidence for Ozturk's participation in terrorist activities, and also a group of 27 Jewish organizations have filed a brief in support of Ozturk, claiming to watch state authorities undermine the same fundamental rights that empowered so many Jewish Americans. Is chilling. To know it is being done in the name of Jewish people is profoundly disturbing, the brief said. And they're absolutely right, and it's amazing that they're speaking out, because I think Jewish people being at the forefront of this movement is an important statement to make. It's absolutely terrifying for anti-Semitism to be weaponized in this way, because like I said, claiming pro-Palestinian beliefs are anti-Semitic distracts and muddies the waters from actual anti-Semitism, which is rising in America. I miss interacting with my Tufts community, from working with my advisor and professors, supporting my lab mates as we worked on peer reviews, my interactions with undergraduate students, and special projects like our mosaic art project and the collective grieving space for children, she said in the written declaration. But there isn't just Rumeysa and Mahmoud who have been kidnapped by ICE. There are plenty of other people. The list is long. Another Turkish student from the University of Minnesota is suing for his own release. He was arrested actually not for her pro-Palestinian beliefs or protesting, but for a drunk driving charge, which is, according to all accounts I read, not grounds for terminating someone's visa. Snatching up students who come here illegally to work and get an education does not make you tough on immigration, Waltz tweeted. We need answers. Now, I love me some Tim Waltz, but I just hate the way that he phrased like the tough on immigration thing. But he is a liberal, so he's doing his best. I still love him. NBC reports, though, that 23 students at Texas A&M have had their visas revoked, as well as multiple at the University of Texas. Classic Texas L. New Mexico State had 9 students. University of North Carolina had 6. The list goes on and on. None of these have any legal grounds to stand for their revocation. But honestly, when matched up over the grand, swath of deportations that Trump has tried to put in place, people like Rumeysa and Mahmoud are actually the lucky ones, believe it or not, because they are still able to fight their cases and are still on US soil where they belong. But not everybody in this fight has been so lucky. Bukele, the Salvadorian president, has refused to return Kilmar Obrego Garcia, who was wrongfully deported to the mega prison CCOT. I've mentioned this prison before in my Impel Down video if you want to learn more about the egregious human rights violations that take place there. Both the US and El Salvador refused to return him despite the unanimous decision from the Supreme Court to return him immediately. The Trump admin claims he is a former member of MS-13, but there is no evidence for such. He came here actually seeking refuge from gang violence in El Salvador, and a court ordered back in 2019 that he couldn't be deported to El Salvador because of that. They've also deported people with tattoos that they claim are in relation to Tren de Aragua, even though experts have said that, unlike MS-13, this gang has no discernible tattoos associated with it. So once again, Trump and his team are just lying. What a surprise. They deported someone with an autism awareness tattoo, someone with a crown tattoo with like a soccer ball over it. which is meant to symbolize his favorite football team, Real Madrid. It is just terrifying stuff that is happening right now that I think we should all be aware of. But I think we should also all be aware of our rights in America, because I don't think that we are. Even American citizens do not understand the Constitution at all. But even if you are on a visa, a green card, whatever, undocumented, girl, it don't even matter. You should know your rights on US soil, because we all have them. I got this information from the National Immigration Justice Center as a rule book for what people should do if you encounter ICE. So they advise you to create a safety plan. Identify emergency contacts and memorize their phone numbers. Let your loved ones know that if you get detained by ICE, they can track your location through the online detainee tracker. Also, like I said, know your constitutional rights. You have the right to remain silent when questioned or arrested by ICE. If you encounter an ICE agent, it's important to stay calm, don't run, don't act a fool. Also, always have your papers and documents with you at all times. If ICE comes to your door, you should not answer, because they need a warrant to come into your house according to the 4th Amendment. They also need a warrant to arrest you. If you are outside and identify an ICE agent, you can move to an indoor space. I think all of this is just super alarming, because even more progressive Democrats have barely brought up these cases. I mean, AOC, I saw at the LA fight against the oligarchy or whatever rally, she actually did bring up a lot of these cases, which I was very happy about. But broader swath of progressive Democrats and Democrats in general not fighting against this blatant undermining of people's rights and the Constitution is just so alarming. I did also see that there's a congressman who's going to El Salvador, so we'll see how that goes. That's a really important move, and I'm very happy that he's doing that, because that's unlike, Cory Booker yapping for freaking a day for some reason. That's like actually doing something, so I'm very happy about that. But these kidnappings are going unaddressed and will only allow for the Trump admin to further erode protections beyond the issue of Palestine and Israel. People like Mahmoud have become the face of protests around the country, but without federal backing, I worry there will be no consequence or justice. If we are too cowardly to speak up, we will land right back in Martin's place all those decades ago, with no one to protect us. So please protect each other right now before we get there. Look out for one another. This is not the time to be silent at all. Thank you all so much for watching. Would also like to thank my Patreon members, my $10, my $5, my $1, all of you. I will show love to all of you. I also like to thank my YouTube members, but I also like to thank you for watching this video. And I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye!